if you're the thing at the event that everybody has their phone out taking pictures and video of, that's one marker of it. And of course, people smile and people tell you good things. But when everybody has to have a picture and you do a search the next day and you do the hashtag for whatever that thing is, and your stuff is all over the place, that's a good feeling, right? Because it means you're doing it right. You're engaging in the way that not only is good for us, but it's what our clients want too, right? They want to make sure people connect with it.
Welcome to No More Bad Events, a fun and insightful podcast for professional event organizers and for anyone at any level interested in producing nothing but the best events. Each week we'll talk with legendary event professionals to get an inside look into what they think makes a great event. And in the process, we'll draw out insider secrets, non-traditional approaches, and compelling stories from the most captivating personalities in the business. No More Bad Events is produced and presented by eSpeakers, the most trusted online platform for the best keynote speakers in the world. And I'm your host, Scott Bloom, comedian, event MC, and now your podcast host. Let's get started. Hey everyone, thanks for dropping by. We always appreciate it when you do. Today, I'm excited to bring you a conversation with a true innovator in the world of event entertainment. I'm talking about my new friend, Chris Lashua, the mastermind behind Cirque Mechanics, and he has an incredible story to share. From his days as a pro BMX rider to working with Cirque du Soleil, Chris has always pushed the boundaries of what's possible. With Cirque Mechanics, he's taken things to a whole new level, creating custom apparatus and designs that blend acrobatics, mechanical marvels, and even a bit of clowning to create unforgettable experiences for event attendees. What I love about Chris and his team is their passion for problem solving and collaboration. They work closely with event planners to bring their visions to life, whether it's through ambient performances, featured acts, or headline entertainment. Chris also touches upon the importance of building strong relationships with event professionals and maintaining transparency and honesty in all their endeavors. So get ready to be inspired as we dive into the world of Cirque Mechanics and learn how Chris is revolutionizing the event entertainment industry. Without further ado, let's jump right into my conversation with the one and only Chris Lashua. I actually was just watching your 1998 third round AFA Masters BMX.
Well, you did some digging.
in Arizona. So I think I kind of put that together. So you were like a pro BMX rider and then were brought into, I guess, Cirque du Soleil or one of those type of communities?
Yeah, I was, action sports, right? Like what the X Games, people recognize it as the X Games now. It was BMX, the bicycle acrobatic movement on the bikes. And I had paid my way through college, did shows at fairs and festivals and every kind of place there was to do that kind of performance. And then I got to the end of my college career and I was about to get a job in advertising, had an opportunity to go to China to represent Ringling Brothers at a festival, circus festival. So I went. And I met one of the founders of Cirque du Soleil there, and I was off and running after that.
So let's talk a little bit about Cirque Mechanics, your company. For people who are maybe not familiar with it, it's got the word cirque in it, so we know there's got to be some circus elements, but it also has mechanics, which people might not make the connection. So tell us a little more about Cirque Mechanics and how you infused, not only acrobatics, mechanical marvels, we'll talk a lot more about that, and even a touch of clowning into these unique event productions.
Yeah, so you're right. It has the word cirque in it. That usually lets people know that it is somehow circus related, but maybe more of a modern take on circus or a different take on circus. And then mechanics relates to the fact that, as we mentioned just a bit ago about my bicycle background, I have a kind of a love for all things mechanical. I love the analog world. And I started kind of taking bikes apart, rebuilding them, putting them back in different configurations while I started to get involved with circus and created some contraptions. One of the acts that I did for Cirque du Soleil was called the German wheel. And it's a 7-foot wheel that you'd stand inside and roll around the stage and steer it around like a freewheeling hamster wheel. And that wheel there's a certain construct to space and size. It's a 7-foot diameter. So it requires 24 or 5 feet to do a full revolution. So stage space then becomes a concern. And so I developed a machine that would allow that wheel to sit on a set of rollers, and I could perform it in a very small space. Those set of rollers then got added onto a cart that when I would click and engage a lever, it would roll across the stage while I was rolling inside this wheel. This contraption became the centerpiece of our first theater show when I left Cirque. And we first went into the world of theater, and we created a show around this idea of creating these machines that would show off the relationship between a mechanical contraption and a lyrical performance. In the case of this first machine, this wheel on a set of rollers, we attached a winch to that. And so by rolling in this wheel, much like a hamster in a wheel, that winch would then lift and lower an aerialist up and down. So this connectedness became not only the function for how the lifting is done using this machine, but also became part of the visual. And what made it compelling and interesting is that relationship. And those machines developed over the years, and we created several theater shows with them. And then these machines, because of their nature, became kind of interesting to be used in the corporate world to both transport performers through a space, maybe if it's a large space and we want to bring the entertainment through the space. Or if we want to solve a rigging problem and suddenly we're outside and we want to have rigging, or we're in a ballroom and we want that rigging to move, we've got devices to do that. And so this idea of marrying the mechanical and the performance really is at the heart of what we do and what has kind of been our signature and kind of our hallmark.
Yeah, it sounds like the innovation and the creativity is what really gets you jazzed. You know, how can I put these elements together to create something entertaining?
Yeah, and I think we're all looking for our own, no matter what world we're in, right? We're all looking to what is our thing? What's our unique thing? What is the thing that sets us apart? And if it's the thing that, it happened to be the thing that I enjoyed, and I looked at the marketplace of circus and live performance, and there was nobody doing that kind of performance. Cirque du Soleil became known for its fantasy shows of dreams. And so I was looking for a way to do something like that, but in a real world setting. So many of these devices, we set them in our theater shows. We'd set them in real world settings. In the case of our first show, Birdhouse Factory, we set it in a 1920s factory, looked like the look and feel of modern times Chaplin or Diego Rivera's murals, and we want to bring those to life. And so that look was very different than that other circus genre. And that's something we kind of just jumped into. And I do love that stuff. And the problem solving is something that it's turned out to be a real asset in the event space because there's always issues, right? No matter what it is. If you're a drummer, you have to contend with the fact that, either the stage is too small for your drum kit. What's the solution for that? Well, in our world, often it's like your performance is too small, too big. And so how do we address that? And sometimes we'll address that by building an apparatus that gets us higher. Something simple, like just elevating a performance. Sometimes that's a mobile device, so it's pedal powered and it rolls through the room. And sometimes it's the opposite thing. It's, we need something to be made smaller. It needs to be intimate. It needs to be. And so we have to think in our Rolodex of all of the history that I have with the live performance and the acrobatic and the variety arts. It's about like just kind of keeping your brain open and thinking about of all of the worlds and the way they intersect. What's the thing about what the client needs this time that we can use our background, and whether it's something that we've developed or not, to kind of help them fix these challenges, I want to say problems, but, to overcome the challenges that are inherent in the live entertainment space.
Yeah. So you're an inventor. You're, as I said, it's about ingenuity and putting things together and problem solving. Is there an example of a place where, a client came to you, you had to solve that problem to put something in that maybe was something that you did before, but you had to accommodate that space? Is there something that comes to mind?
Yeah, I'd say that that's probably half of what we end up doing, right? Is that we have an inventory now because we have this 15, 20-year history of creating full-blown 90 minutes worth of content. Many of those have different apparatus or different scenic solutions in them. We have all that kind of in our inventory. So a client might say, oh, we love the aerial, but we don't have the capacity to do any rigging, or it's only got 15-foot ceilings. What can we do, right? And so we'll have to take something that we've created before and modify it to fit that. That's by now, because we created all of these things to tour and be able to load into a theater and load back out again. It's the same kind of criteria in a ballroom setting. You got to be able to stick it in a truck, get it through a double door, be able to build it in an hour sometimes or less if it's a poolside event and they want to flip it really quickly. And so all of these things are kind of baked in now in the design, especially of the newer apparatus that we build. While we're building something for a theater project, right away, we're thinking about, wow, how can this thing be used? Because this is a really cool new thing. This is going to be great for a general session. What is it about that makes it unique? What are the limitations about it? What are the problems that it solves? So much of that is kind of automatically, like anything else, if you do this thing for a little while, you start to see right away when you look at something, okay, what are the things about that are going to make that really easy and really that are going to solve a lot of those concerns? And what are the handicaps? What are the things about that apparatus that are not going to work? It's too expensive. It's too heavy. It takes too long to set up, all those things. So having a long history with this helps me to get to those solutions quicker and in a way that, is hopefully interesting and new for our partners.
I'm sure there are different ways that they can bring you in. And you mentioned an opening general session, or what are some other ways that are being used?
Well, yeah. So I think that it trends, back and forth. We do a lot of work, which is just, I would say prior to COVID, there was a lot more featured, focused. We want you to do 45 minutes after dinner or between courses, right? And we're going to give you the feature and the focus is all going to be on you, like a headline act or something like that. We still do a bunch of that. And then there would be, we want to have the talent going on, but it's a cocktail thing. We want them to be able to talk the whole time. We don't want them to have to stop and sit down in a formal setting. We want them to be able to mix and mingle. So we want something that's a bit more ambient. We want more strolling talent, more things that people can just kind of experience, like moving wallpaper, pretty pictures, things that are interesting to look at. And that's the kind of ambient performance. It's important when we have the discussion with the event planners or the DMCs to find out what kind of event it's going to be. Sometimes they'll come to us and they'll say, this is exactly what we want. But sometimes they don't. They know they want to work with us. They've seen it before and they like it, but they're not sure exactly. And so we have to ask some questions about that and find out what they're trying to do. Because what's awkward is if you're having an event and there's lots of networking going on and there's a vibe, right? There's a DJ playing, and then suddenly all that stops because we're going to do a featured focus thing on stage and the music and everything goes to that. And it's now a slower piece or a romantic piece or whatever that is. And that can kill the vibe of the event, right? And so it's really good to have a sense and have good conversations with the client ahead of time, find out what they're trying to accomplish, because we do the full range, as you said. And I would say it's trending in the past couple of years. We do a lot more of the ambient stuff. And I think it's just probably related to the whole social media world and how so much of the events are lived or experienced remotely or after the fact. And so clients want to make sure that those engagements are great and they're visual and can be pushed out online. So I think there's a lot more conversation about that. Like, what's the thing? What's the focal element of this thing? And is it kind of the kind of thing that's going to capture everybody's attention and want to get a picture in front of so they can put it on their Instagram and show their friends what a cool event that they're at that they're all missing at home,
Yeah, it's all about pushing it out on social media, and you have some great ambient. What would you call it? Ambient
apparatus structure.
Yeah. So I've seen it. I think I've been at a Cirbelli event where you folks were there. I'm sure there are other people who do it, but I think I know you work with Michael a lot. Michael loves you. I know what it looks like. I've seen people, acrobatics and aerialists, flipping upside down and pouring drinks, and bartenders. Give us an idea of what that looks like for the people who've never experienced it.
Yeah, well, I think that, as you said, it's a full range. So it's everything from maybe an acrobatic act that's featured on a stage or a satellite stage that's, set out in different places of the room so that people that are closer to that can engage with that. It also might be in the kind of ambient space that encompasses everything from things that are good to take pictures of, whether it's people that are on platforms that are costumed to fit the theme of that event, and they're just much like a statue, and they're there for photos or photo ops. It could be hospitality based. So we're doing a little bit more and more of that. Our first device was a wine pouring. We did the aerial bartending. That was something that kind of came up, I would say maybe 10 years ago or so. It started to happen where we would have people hanging upside down in harnesses and pouring champagne or wine. And so we were having a conversation with a client about a different way to pour alcohol. And we built a tricycle, modified one of our tricycles. You could imagine a tricycle with the back wheel is the wheel that steers. So the small wheels in the back, and these two big wheels are in the front. They're 5-foot wheels or so. And there's a platform on top and an umbrella, kind of a propeller that has a bunch of wine glasses. And so this device rolls through the room, and the propeller turns. So the wine glasses are up ahead turning, and the person driving the bike will reach up, slide a wine glass off the rack, the propeller, pour it and hand it off. And those devices they're made to travel, they're made to roam the rooms, but often what happens is because they're kind of a popular thing at these events, the person ends up rolling it to a certain location, start pouring, and then they're stuck there because everybody wants to get a photo or a little video clip of that thing in action, of this person pouring the wine down to them. And the clients, that's kind of what they want too, right? Again, they love it when in general, unless there's some super secret thing going on, they like to see that the events, people are taking the pictures and sharing them and taking those memories home. And so the hospitality devices are something that have become more and more important. We have another device where we hook a series of wagons to one of those trikes and we roll buffet trains through the room, and it's a portable moving buffet, which is kind of neat. It's just different. I think our clients we're always looking to try to, do things that to one up what they did last year or change things up a little bit. I think that while we do the full range of it and we can do the entertainment, and most of the people in the event space, they've been doing this a while. They've got their group of people that can be stilt walkers or jugglers or whatever in certain markets. We have connections in most markets because we work all over the country and we can do all of that stuff. But mostly people come to us because they're looking for the stuff that's unique to us. And while we can do the other things, I'm less interested in being an agent than I am working with the partners to kind of create new stuff that's fun and that's fun to build. And, I kind of, as you said, that kind of is what gets me going. And I like doing that a lot.
Chris, walk us through the process of creating custom apparatus and designs to meet the specific requirements of events. And I also, because I had Michael on the podcast, who's talking about the hot list and people coming up with new things, I want to talk about the tall walkers, because I saw that. That's pretty
nice.
Pretty amazing.
Well, the tall walkers, for people who are listening and not seeing this, they're essentially like a parade puppet. You might think of Carnival and you think of these stick puppets with person wearing a backpack, and there's a 15-foot tall thing and they're waving it around. And we had requests from some of our clients that were saying, hey, we're doing a festival, we're doing a Coachella vibe, and, we want to have that kind of festival vibe. And what do you have? And, we're known for all of our rolling devices and other kind of apparatus. And so this was for a client that was doing a Christmas tree lighting last year. And I had been wanting to build one of these. And so I suggested a tall walker. We call it a tall walker. It's this big kind of backpack puppet, 15 feet tall. And I'd suggested a nutcracker. How about a nutcracker being able to walk down the street 15 feet tall? They loved it. He loved it. And we have a relationship, and he's booked most of all of our other apparatus, and they pulled the trigger on it and we got it built. And, a lot of the times that's our way forward, right? Is to keep growing this stuff. Is that in this case, we were able to build that thing for what I charged the client and what we currently charge for it to this day. So I didn't make any money, but on that first one, but now we have a new piece of inventory. And in the design of the tall walker, this parade puppet, again, this is the stuff where we have to be forward thinking, right? We want to build this in such a way that it's not just a nutcracker, because as soon as Christmas is over, this thing is now sitting there all year. So we designed this thing with a skeletal structure underneath that we can change it. And it's a costume. So I've done renderings of 20 or 30 of these now. I have a Tin Man, I have a leprechaun, I have a ringmaster, we have a Lego character, I have a football character that we built for the Super Bowl when it was here in Vegas, I have illustrations of a Formula One driver. And so this thing can be skinned to support these themes, because as we know in the event space, so many of these events are along those lines, where they really want to try to push that thing home. Well, how do we create that vibe of a particular place or time or theme? And so these things are designed for that. And it's a funny thing. And I don't know if it happened with a football player too, but the nutcracker really surprised me, because people have this weird, I don't know, there's almost like this, I don't know if it's
fascination with
a fascination. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a weird fascination. And not just like kids but we'd have these like all ages coming up and just wanting to take pictures with a nutcracker, which was, I know it's cool and I think it's cool, right? And a lot of the times that's my gauge, right? Is I really want to do that. I want to build that. That's going to be great. And most of the time I get it right, but sometimes I get it wrong. And my wife will sometimes say to me, when it's out there and it's at an event and it's working, and I get really excited. She's like, well, yeah, but you weren't sure it was going to work. And I was like, well, yeah, I thought it was going to work, but I'm continually surprised and pleased when it works the way you expect it to. I think that if you ever get to the point where you just know 100% that it's absolutely going to be a grand slam, I don't buy that. You know what I mean? I don't know that exists in any endeavor, whether you're making movies or creating a business. You got to go on some level you got to believe in it for sure. But I think for me anyway, there's always a little bit of like, but what if I'm wrong? What if I'm not right? What if people aren't going to engage with it in the same way? And so it's always a thrill. And so with the Nutcracker, I was just super blown away at the reactions, which is great, right? Because if you're the thing at the event that everybody has their phone out taking pictures and video of, That's one marker of it. And of course, people smile and people tell you good things, but when everybody has to have a picture and you do a search the next day and you do the hashtag for whatever that thing is, and your stuff is all over the place, that's a good feeling, right? Because it means you're doing it right. You're engaging in the way that not only is good for us, but it's what our clients want too, right? They want to make sure people connect with it.
Yeah, it seems like you built your company to really accommodate the event planners, their schedules, their needs. How do you personally measure the success of a performance at an event? And what is the typical feedback you commonly receive?
I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think that, when we're, whatever it is that we're doing, even if it's ambient, it's not supposed to take focus. Feels great when it does. There's all these little pockets of conversations happening. And when many of those people will turn and stop what they're doing to kind of engage with that feels good. Right. And I'm not always there, but I'm in the back, I'm wherever, and I'm kind of watching that to see what's grabbing people's attention. In the modern day, right? I mean, I think a measure is, as I said earlier, we'll scroll through the following day, we'll click the hashtags, and, it feels good when many of the things, the thing that you thought was going to get everybody's attention really works, whether it be a scenic piece that we built. In the case of Shaq, there was, this 20-foot tall Shaq's face with a mouth that you walk through like a funhouse mouth. And it was Shaq's face. All the pictures and the video that end up online for that, right? I mean, that's the thing that people chose to kind of memorialize the event for them. That feels great, right? That's validation. And then of course, on the business side, it's all about like, hey, we know we did well if client sends me an email 2 days later and says, got another one, let's talk about it. That's a real measure of whether it's working or not, right? Because sometimes it's about, oh, that was really cool, but sometimes it doesn't go anywhere. And I think much like a joke or a backflip, the people doing it have to be having a good time, because at the end of the day, I love what I do because we've been doing it so long and we attract people. They come to us now. There'll be artists from around the world. And most of them, I have to send them messages saying, look, due to the nature of the work we do, I'm not going to get your work permit to come do this one event in Chicago. But we have access to a lot of people, and people come at us for that because that telegraphs, right? If you're loving what you're doing, you just get good at it and you get better and better at it. And that energy is contagious. And so we have good people, and that's increasingly important as we do more and more of these things. So we have different events in different places. We have a warehouse now in Florida. We have a team of people that we lean on that manage that stuff, that do it really well. And in the beginning, like anything else, it's scary, right? You feel like you got to be on every event. I got to be on every event. I got to be there for the client. I got to be there. And that's great, but it's a bit of a bottleneck, right? And it really inhibits your growth. If you need to physically be there, then something else isn't really firing the way it should be, right? So it took me a while to do that. But now the people that we have are able to manage the larger events without me there. And that feels great. When you talk about like, how do I know what feels good about an event? Did it feel successful? On some level, it's that too, right? Because that's about sustainability, right? Because the sooner I can get a certain offering to the place where I don't need to be involved with it, and the more it can go out there and do its thing without me, then long-term, that's good for us as a company too.
I think everyone listening to this conversation is getting a really good sense of what Cirque Mechanics is beyond the entertainment. It all comes from the top down. It comes from you, Chris, that you're very passionate about this. You love what you're doing. You're bringing excitement to events. What key takeaways do you hope event professionals gain from working with you and Cirque Mechanics? And how can they best utilize your offerings to create memorable events?
Well, I think the best way, to get engaged earlier is better, because we can be proactive and help, especially because I don't know if this is a new thing, probably not a new thing. Often end clients will want to see 3 fully fleshed out proposals. And so they'll be, going down the Wizard of Oz and then, I don't know, a Rat Pack and then something else. And they want to see the full thing produced. And so we're used to that, and it's the nature of the business. So we can support that. And it's helpful to us because if we get pulled in before they decide to do Alice in Wonderland, which we have some things for, we can inject ourselves into their proposal. So if they get a hold of us really early on when they're still brainstorming, and this is the thing that we try to communicate when we're talking and meeting with them. It's like, hey, look, don't be shy, right? Sometimes people don't want to reach out because they're like, I got this call and I don't know what to do. That's fine, right? Like, let's be honest, like sometimes we don't know, but get a hold of us because then we might have an idea. And if I can take my device and do a rendering of it that now is covered with bamboo and a grass skirt, and there's a girl that's 12 feet in the air, and now it really supports that Tulum, Cancun beach party vibe. They throw it in the proposal and suddenly, bam, we're in, right? And then I'm able to do the same thing for Alice in Wonderland or whatever else it is, right? So the earlier we get involved in the process, the better. so that we can help them. And it helps us, gives them better tools. And then it puts us in a situation where if we're the thing that the client looks at and points at and says, yeah, then we're in.
I want to give you a chance here because I think Cirque Mechanics is amazing because you hit all different forms of entertainment. We have the ambient performers through a hospitality event. You have these great featured acts that can open or come in during a general session. You have acts that can be headline entertainment at an awards program or a dinner. Give me your pitch. If I was an event professional, why would I want to hire Cirque Mechanics?
I would say that there are lots of entities that can give you stuff that's off the shelf. And if you know exactly what you want, then you can go to our website or somebody else's. And if you see what they have and you like it, great. We can access all of that stuff. So if there's something specific, I think that there's two things. One, I would say that we've gotten really good at being able to support them in selling it because they might like it. But if they don't have the tools to sell it to their end client, it's going nowhere. So we have the tools. I think that's part of it, is that we're going to give you the resources to sell this to your clients. That's part of it. And that goes for whether it's new or it's something just off the shelf. I'm going to give you and support you in a way that you can help them to make the sale, to convince the others. And then the other thing is, if you're looking for something that is not off the shelf, then I'm your guy. And we're the company that can do that. I mean, it's what we've done since the beginning in the event space. It's been all about solving problems, because when we came into the space initially, there were other people doing circus. There were other people doing cirque acts. Fine. What are we going to do? What's different about what we're doing? And so from the get-go, early on, it started to be about problem solving and or coming up with a new way to do it. How are we going to make this interesting? How are we going to make it something that they haven't seen before? And I'm proud about that. I think that's what sets us apart, right? Is that if they're looking for some way to do something that's custom, something that nobody's ever built before, we can find a way to get it done. And that's the way that most of the things that exist that people, if they've seen our work, most of that is a result of conversations, people like yourself or planners that say, man, I wanted to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And so we figure it out together. And I love that. And I think that and our approach to this, which is just about transparency and about, doing it the right way, right? We're in this for the long haul, man. It's all about relationships, treating people the right way, doing it the right way, and being transparent about what you're doing and honest. I think that's something that makes us a good call.
I think it's great. I encourage everyone to check out their website. You'll see all the things we've been talking about. I think it's circmechanics.com, CIRQUE mechanics.com. Chris, such a pleasure to meet you. I've heard a lot about you, heard a lot about Cirque Mechanics, and it was great to just hang with you and find out a little bit more about you and about Cirque Mechanics.
It was great talking to you. I enjoy the podcast, and I'm always looking for the next one to drop. So thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Cheers.
That's it for now. Thanks once again to eSpeakers, the #1 way to find your next perfect speaker. With the deepest catalog of professionals available, you can be assured that the speaker you book will be the absolute best speaker based on your goals, bar none. I've been your host, Scott Bloom, professional MC and comedic keynote speaker. And of course, your connoisseur of connections. Oh, by the way, and if you're interested, you can book me for your next event on eSpeakers Marketplace at espeakers.com/marketplace. And if you like what you heard, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. If you love what you heard, drop us a review and don't forget to share with your friends. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out and make your event a great one.